Are you looking for entertainment for a fundraiser, outreach, youth night, date night, or for a conference? Does your team need a way to improve team camaraderie, confidence, and communication? Well, look at Well-Versed Comedy for a show, performance, or workshop. Well-Versed Comedy is Chicago's clean comedy team, and we're ready to serve you, your audience, or your organization. We've headlined our own shows at the Second City, at Getty's Comedy Club in Indianapolis, and started our own TV show called His Line. And we've raised over $5,000 for charity in just the last 2 years. We are now booking for your back-to-school bash, fundraiser, and even your holiday parties. Contact us today and let's see how a night of high-energy, clean, original, family-friendly comedy can make your next event memorable for all the right reasons. Connect with us on social media at WellVersedCMDY. That's at WellVersedCMDY, or online at wellversedcomedy.com. Wellversedcomedy.com. For booking information, email us improv at wellversedcomedy.com.
Welcome to the Gifts for Glory podcast, where we celebrate and promote men and women using their gifts for God's glory. Know someone who is making an impact for God's kingdom using their gifts, talents, and passions? We'd love to meet them. Send us an email at podcast@giftsforglory.com. That's podcast@gifts4glory.com. And now here is our host, Dave Ebert.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of the Gifts for Glory podcast. Live on Facebook and YouTube, or if you're catching the replay, we are available on the Creative Motion Network on Roku. We're available also on the Taken TV podcast channel, and if you're into the audio podcast, we're on all major podcast platforms. So please feel free to subscribe, leave a review, let people know if you enjoy the show. If you hate the show, I appreciate you listening anyway. But just remember, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. So we're so excited to have you here. We're looking forward to our next show for Well-Versed Comedy that's coming up this Saturday. It is happening at the Lombard Assembly Church at 447 West North Avenue, Lombard, Illinois, 60148. Free admission. It's Improv Roulette, the most unpredictable improv comedy show ever. We spin a wheel, or actually the audience member spins a wheel just to prove that we're not rigging anything. It lands on a category. They will draw a card from that category, and based on what's on that card, that's the improv game we're going to play. We have no idea who's going to play. We have no idea what games we're going to play. We have no idea, but we know it's going to be fun, and that's this Saturday, 6 p.m. at Lombard Assembly Church in the Chicagoland area. If you can't make it out, feel free to bring Well-Versed Comedy to you. We love to travel and bring comedy to you. So mark your calendars for this Saturday, or just bring us out. So let's move on now to our devotions with Dave's segment. We're going to be reading one of my favorite passages, one of my favorite verses, Proverbs 17:22, out of the NLT. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. And that's so true, and that's one of the biggest reasons that I do comedy is I love what God has done by creating comedy and creating laughter. It improves our spirits, it improves the energy in our hearts, it uplifts us, it reduces stress, it lowers blood pressure. All these things, all these good things happen when we have a good, healthy laugh. And in this world, the last 2.5 years, and now we're headed right back into a midterm election cycle, there are so many people who are just hurting and struggling. The price of gas, it's starting to come back down, but the price of food is still way up. All this stuff is just weighing on people. And that's why we do comedy. That's why we love to share in laughter together. And our comedy is not like we're reading out of the Bible and trying to make fun of it. No, we just do clean comedy with Well-Versed. And it's all about bringing people together, reminding them that there's hope. There is hope because God gave us hope. And laughter is a really great way to just kind of break down those walls, brings people together, and just realize that there's more to this life than what we see. This world is temporary. This world will pass away soon. But what's eternal is God. And to make us bridge that gap, to help us bridge that gap, God has given us laughter. And that's why Gifts of Glory exists. That's why Well-Versed Comedy exists. and I guess you could argue that's why I exist. So Proverbs 17:22, it says, "A cheerful heart is a good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength." So a cheerful heart is good medicine. We at Well-Versed Comedy with Gifts of Glory, we want to be your pharmacist. So that is our Devotions with Dave segment coming out of Proverbs. One of my Proverbs has so much wisdom, and we're just really a huge fan of all the little nuggets you can pull from there. So our guest is a part of the behind the scenes, part of the production. Honest to God, we talked with Polly last week, who is the co-star. It looks like it's going to be a fun movie. It's on all your major streaming platforms. Look for it. It's called Honest to God. And I think you're going to, honest to God, enjoy this trailer. So check it out here before we bring in our guest.
Daniel Adams.
Daniel, I was wondering, could you help Pretzel? He has to poopy.
Sorry.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling.
There's a good chance you have a terminal illness that could result in death in a short period of time.
This is kind of like the day before a colonoscopy.
You're gonna die?
Except this time, you won't be waking up afterwards to see if they found something.
I think it's important that you tell Rebecca as soon as possible, while she still has a few good years left in her.
Huh?
Mormons! How cool!
I'm Elder Jones. I'm Elder Wallace.
And you guys look so young. How cute!
Chloe, they're people, not puppies.
I don't want to die. I'm only in my 50s, for God's sake. For your sake. I promise you, I will change.
Good morning, my love.
Good to see you eating at the table, son.
My treat today.
Why?
Well, it's been a while since I've treated, so, you know.
Whoa, you've never treated.
I don't know. He's been acting strange ever since he went to see that Dr. Haja.
Sure did. It is.
Am I losing my mind? Or did I just see you hand a baggie of dog poop to Miss Tucker?
Dr. Haja has been under investigation since the closing of his place of practice in Los Angeles last month for allegedly posing as a doctor, seeing patients, diagnosing them with terminal cancer, and then charging them for tests that were never performed.
Yes!
So we are now joined by Enrique Luis, and I should have asked you how to pronounce the last name. How do you say the last name?
Veguilla.
Veguilla.
Yeah, it's like quesadilla.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Enrique, or as I learned through the Facebook thread, your friends and family call you Ricky.
Yeah.
Do I qualify yet, or do we have to wait till the end of the interview?
Yeah, just people say I still introduce myself as Enrique, but it just keeps sticking. It's okay, you know. If you call me Ricky, I don't mind. It's cool. It's just it's a funny story. When I was a little kid, I didn't like my name. I think my mom said it like really feminine. She's like Enrique. So I don't know. I don't know. It turned into Ricky, and then, you know, I got older. It's like, you know, I went to Rick, and I'm like, why did I ever do that? I prefer Ricky over Rick. But then it's like, okay, I'm Enrique. You know, I like, you know, it's a good name. But you can call me whatever you want. It's fine. Just don't call me late for dinner. I don't know. What's the joke go?
Yeah, exactly. So you're one of the producers of Honest to God, and you also had your hand in other aspects. So what was your role with creating the film, and tell us about how it came together from your perspective?
Oh, really? Well, you have to go back to when I first met Robert Alanis, who's the writer, director, producer of Soul Productions. So I was doing basically just acting when he was there was a film before this film called Heavens to Betsy 2. And I found out, they're making a faith-based Christian film in the area. I'm like, that's awesome. Let me get on the, submit. I found out about the casting call a little bit late. So, I never really asked it to either, I submitted too late or, they didn't see me as a fit. And, but then I followed the movie and I started following the movie and I saw I was looking for crew. And so I said, why not? It'd be cool. Just, it's right here, my back door, it'd be a great experience. And, we met. And so I got to do crew for that movie and, try to make a long story short. Sometime down the road, I got to know, everybody. And then I kind of just started talking to them and talking about investing. I was like, well, how do you like invest and yada, yada. And, so I basically, I prayed about it and then I ended up becoming an investor, which I found out gives me an executive producer title. And then I ended up doing a little bit of acting in the movie anyway, which was cool, which was nice. And so a little time went by and Robert was writing this next script. And, I was just told him, if you ever you need help of working again, obviously, I would love to submit to casting or you need help, just let me know when the next one is. And so very, it's been about 3 years now. It's hard to believe. So he said, okay, I think I'm going to do this movie. And I was like, it's okay, great. He did a script read and, we would meet and kind of talk about it. And then, basically we were just talking about it so much. He asked me, I didn't expect this at all. He said, oh, you want to be the associate producer? And I was like, okay. If you believe in me, you want to give me a chance to do that. And so that's in a nutshell, that's what happened. And I just, with the faith of whatever God, I've always kind of I was said flexible, God, whatever you have for me, I have a passion for this. So if you want me to wear a different hat, and 3 years later, here it is. It's crazy, to think about the whole journey with it.
And because of the pandemic and all the craziness that happened the last couple of years, there were chances that this film would never see the light of day. So as you're going through this process, kind of describe how it felt to kind of see the world kind of stop and you're in that moment of wondering, is this ever going to get made? Are we ever going to produce anything again? So kind of take us through that time.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy because it seems like another lifetime before all this pandemic stuff. And obviously, is starting the production. We started development, I'd say probably around this time 3 years ago in summer, 2019. And we were definitely met with a lot of obstacles. And, I think we even questioned sometimes, is you want us to do this, God, there were some really bad things, I could take you through the whole journey, but honestly, it felt like every time something bad happened, something good happened. It's like, I was like, keep going. But so about in the summer 2019, we just started talking about it. And I think maybe a little bit before that, it's hard to remember the timeline, the script read, I'm trying to recall everything. But so, I mean, the first big hit was in August of 2019. My mom was diagnosed. It was out of nowhere with pancreatic cancer.
Oh man.
And, it's actually, she's a miracle because she's recovered, and she's.
Oh, wow. Praise God.
Yeah. That's one of the most deadliest cancers. Obviously that was a huge, hit over the head, and that was a short, it wasn't too much longer after we started working on it. I was actually on vacation when it happened. And, so that was crazy, juggling all that and going through that. And, I praise God, she's better. And now I'm thankful. I'm just well, thank God, she didn't have to go through that during this pandemic stuff. But,
right.
So we picked up, and I think it was we had our first official pre-production meeting. And just the beginning of January, I think 2020, we had a good meeting. Things seemed going pretty good. And, shortly after that, we went and filmed. I think we filmed a little fundraiser promotion thing with one of the producers that worked with Robert in the past, Ron Smith. And it was crazy because I remember we went out to lunch and it was I I think it was maybe, I don't know, it could have been around Christmas time or time before. It might have been January, or it was like a week later. He just all of a sudden he passed away as a shocker. Yeah. He was, one of the producers too. And he gave this beautiful speech at the production meeting. And we still have the video. I think it's still on the YouTube of him talking about the film, how he's excited about the film. And he just died. He died unexpectedly. I won't go into details, but so that obviously was like a big, big shock setback. So we're like, well, I guess we'll put these off for a little bit. And I think, we started, so we're like, okay, let's try to get back on the horse. This is what Ron, obviously was questioning, maybe I shouldn't do this. But I think our production secretary, Rebecca, she told him like, basically he felt, Ron would want me to continue this, and everybody agreed. And so we had auditions. I think it was like March 2020 or something. And it was before, the shutdown and all that stuff. But you're hearing buzzes about the COVID, and we had pretty good auditions, and then bam, in March 2020, the COVID, obviously, and it is the way it's affected everybody. It's just like it's just I can't put into words. Not only then, but still. And so obviously I can't remember how much time went by. Again, we were like, we don't know what we're gonna do. So eventually I think we put a letter out. Robert put a letter out that hey guys, we're gonna just postpone indefinitely. He's like, I'm not sure if we're going to do this. If you have other things you want to pursue, you can go ahead and do that. And then I think the actress Polly that you had last week, was about August 2020, and she was like, oh, maybe why don't you guys just come over to my house, because she basically offered to shoot a film in her house, like have her house, and it's just like, it was amazing. Like if it wasn't for Polly, I don't think we'd be able to. There's so many things. It's like, if it wasn't for this person, it wasn't that, I don't think we would be able to get this movie done. It's just like God provided, and wow. Like I said, every time we felt like, oh man, we don't know. It's like, keep going. And so we shot some B-roll and some stuff in the summer, and and then it just kind of like, then we got another actress. She was like, there was Diana, who plays Miss Tucker. She was like, yeah, I'll come over. We can shoot some stuff outside. So we started shooting stuff outside. So it just kind of started snowballing, kept going, like, well, maybe we can do this weekend, and so basically, we officially picked it back up, and we picked it back up, but there's so many things. We had our lead actor from Gary Gow. He couldn't do the lead anymore, so we had to go find a new lead, and that's when Burke Sage was cast to play a pastor, and Burke stepped into the role. I mean, it was it's like divine intervention. Wow. Burke, I couldn't imagine the film without Burke being the lead now. And I could probably go on for so long. There was, there's more. I'll keep going. One of our, it seems like fantastical. Like, people don't believe us. We're making this stuff up, and I swear, I don't want, honest to God.
Honest to God,
another producer had like a heart attack. He's okay now. Then Robert had a life-threatening surgery. I don't know if he might have spoke about this. I think it's like his appendix burst or something, and he was already going to sepsis. I don't want to give everybody details, but basically, they told him if you waited, they were telling him you wouldn't have made it. So he had to recover from that. Another actress we had cast, as she had a stroke. She's good. She seems fine now. Also, at one point we weren't sure if we're going to still be able to have Larry Thomas in the film, and I'm sure there's more. But but God, like I said, it seemed like God would always give us something with every setback, to encourage us to keep going. And
that's really great. And there are some that might say, God really doesn't care about a movie, but I think that God cares about the things that we care about, because He's a good Father.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really cool testimony to see how all along, even when it seemed like things were the bleakest and the most obvious choices to give up, God gave you guys a little bit of a push. I really appreciate, that, just hearing those stories, because God is a good father. He cares about the things that are near and dear to our hearts. So very cool on that. So you've been a producer, executive producer, but you've also been in front of the camera. You mentioned you had a small role, or you had a part in Heavens to Betsy 2. Then you've also been in The Order of Rights, A Blood Throne, Summer of '67, which also starred one of my friends and somebody's previous guest, Mimi Sagadan. Was in Summer of '67. Also been To Be a Soldier, and alongside of Jamie Lee Curtis, you were in An Acceptable Loss. So you've been kind of doing a little bit of everything, in front, behind the camera. What's your favorite? Do you enjoy acting, or do you enjoy creating from the other side?
I my first passion was acting, but I'm open to whatever God wants to take me to do. I might, now I don't know how much I'll be producing in the future. It was a great experience, a great journey that I'll always be thankful for. And it definitely was helped me mature, I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm thankful. I think it was meant to be the experience. But I was always interested in acting. It's I don't want to say it's easier, but it's like two different animals for sure. But I started, actors. I started like about, I think it was like 2015. I found out about Actors, Models, and Talent for Christ. I'm sure you heard of it. I mean, you've heard of it. And that's how I kind of started getting into the whole acting thing. That was a great experience. And the way things just fell in place, again, it was God meant to be, so I was going to say, I know, I kind of have there's this Hebrew word, Hanani, and it's basically, it's what Abraham would say, he would call to Abraham. And it basically means like, here I am, send me. So I've always tried to keep that attitude, whatever God has. And I'm thankful to be able to do something, that I'm passionate about, that I enjoy, is fun, and I'm just thankful for it. I don't know if I answered the question or went off in a tangent, but.
That was good.
Yeah.
So, you also you went to the Illinois Center for Broadcasting, now the Illinois Media School, for voiceover and audio producing.
Yeah.
How much of that are you into? Are you doing voiceover for like movies, or where are you at with that?
I've done a little voiceover on the last movie I acted in. I did a little voiceover. I've always had a passion for voiceover and doing voices, and I would love to do like a ring announcer and stuff like that. But the school there, like especially like, I don't know, not necessarily cartoons and stuff like that, but I like it's because you could kind of like take on a character and do like these different voices. I mean, you could do the acting too, but it's like you can with the voiceover. It's a different thing that I like also. I have, I'd love to do more. When I was there, it was that was a good experience too. We would do like these audio promos, like make commercials, like with audio and stuff like that. And I was like, when I did the school there, I was like, I think I'm gonna be on the radio or something, like, maybe like a B96 or Q101 or something like that. I don't know if nationally people know what we're talking about, but it's funny because when I went to school there, and it's like my whole life changed. I grew up at a Christian family, a Christian home, and I always like believed Jesus. I felt like Jesus was there. I believed in him. And, he protects me, he loves me. But I had an experience in my life. Honestly, my life just came crashing down. Like, so much that it was. I felt like it was almost like Jesus was there, but I, kind of kept him in my back pocket. But I know we all have our walks and journeys. But so it's like as I graduated, that it's like my whole life just kind of came tumbling down, and so my faith radically changed, because I had like one of those experiences, like rock bottom experience, they called it. And so I just started, so, well, let me seek the Lord. I basically started with turned on the TV. One day I just, I saw like some music playing. It's like, oh, it's a Christian channel. And it kind of just snowball domino affected from there. And so then, basically, so I my heart kind of changed with the whole thing,
Sure.
I was like, well, I don't think I want to do that anymore. So I kind of just went on, and I don't know if it was shortly after that. I think, I just kind of might walk in faith, and then I kind of led to the whole Actors, Miles, and Talent Christ, because I started watching like Christian films, faith-based films. I never watched them before, and I really started like getting into them and having a passion for them. And I was like, oh wow, this is great. This is edifying. Like, this is great. All this content's out there, and it's coming out. And again, I'm not sure if I answer your question, but
well, let's dive in there. We kind of got like the elevator pitch version. So let's talk about your journey and your testimony. You mentioned that you grew up in a home that was Christian, but it sounds like maybe there was never a real moment until you kind of hit rock bottom that you really pursued the Lord, or maybe I'm misunderstanding. So tell us about, how did you grow up, and kind of walk us through how you finally got to that point where you're like, okay, Jesus, you're it. I need you. And just take it away.
Yeah. I grew up going to church. I was like baptized Lutheran, but then my dad was Catholic. So I'd go to Catholic church and ended up going to like a Baptist church, like Assemblies of God, like all over. And it's just like something I always knew, but I think I was just young and wanted to have fun. And, I had one foot in the world, honestly, and friends and all that stuff. I was like, at one point I was like in a metal band, I'm not even, and just all sorts of stuff, it's like another lifetime. And I just think, I don't know, I was like, I say like, you were blind and now you see. It's just like, I didn't see it. I didn't see what my foolishness and my sin. And that's basically the one day. That's what it took. It took, God was patient with me, and it took like everything in my life, like basically going to hell, basically almost, where I was like sitting one day, I was just alone. And I realized like how messed up, how much I was messing things up. And I feel like I finally could see it one day, and I literally just like broke down. And the whole thing, I don't want to sound cliche, but I cried and for like maybe a couple hours, and it was all alone, but it had to happen, and I'm thankful that it happened. But it was a really breaking, broken experience. And and I'm thankful for it. And I'm by no means perfect now.
Sure.
But, God's always been working on me. There's hills and valleys, and, that's why we got to stay rooted in God and close to him.
Yeah. It's beautiful. God loves to see somebody come to that moment of realizing that they need him, because he's there waiting with arms wide open. He's ready. And he just wants you to realize that he's there for you. And so I love hearing testimonies, because there's a billion and one ways to get to the Father, because we all make choices. We all are in different circumstances. So it's always cool to hear how that happens for each person. And I hope that people that are listening or watching are encouraged that, your story isn't supposed to match up perfectly with anybody else's. There are hills and valleys, there's ups and downs, there's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. So I love testimonies, and I love sharing them on this show. So thank you for sharing that. And
absolutely. If I can be encouragement to anybody, then I'll tell, thank God, for that story. And if it can lead anybody to him, and draw him closer. So that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. So what was the hardest part, going from kind of almost like keeping God at an arm's distance? Now all of a sudden, you've wept, you've found out that you need to go on a different trajectory. What was the hardest part about that transition for you?
I mean, I don't know, leaving the life in the past, I was able to, but the hardest part is like, I noticed the people I used to be around, they slowly just, they didn't want to be, it didn't seem like they really wanted to be, a part of what we became. So
right.
that's the toughest thing. You look back and, because I had a lot of friends and stuff, and I think you get older, a lot of people don't keep up with friends and stuff as much as anymore, but yeah, just those relationships, I guess. But I think it was for a reason, and I still love them and miss them, but it wasn't a healthy relationship, or it wasn't the company I should have been around. And it's God also can separate, God, division's not always bad. God divides in a good way, and there's good division, there's bad division, there's good unity, there's bad unity, and
right.
There's God's unity and God's division. So I would say that would be the toughest part. I mean, we all deal with, sin, and that's why we need God to, to transform us and continue to keep us from that. Cause it doesn't, and even though it looks glamorous, it's like it's rotten on the inside, it's not going to lead to anything beneficial. And it's just tough. Sometimes it could be tough, to try to be set apart. And I don't say I'm better than anybody, but sometimes it feels lonely. That's why, we gotta, as believers, we need to be together. We need each other,
Yeah.
We're all part of the body, we all play a role. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So in this journey, you kind of talked about it before, where at the Illinois School of Broadcasting, now the Illinois Media School, it was around that time that you kind of came to this turn. How did you go from broadcasting and media school to now being in pursuit of acting and the arts? What kind of inspired you to take those steps?
I think it was just my journey with the Lord, and I was watching faith-based film, and I've always been interested in. I've grew up watching movies a lot, and thinking like, oh man, it'd be cool to be in the movie, act and whatnot. And it just like one day I was, I think me and my brother were going down the highway and we saw this big sign, Actors, Miles, and Talent for Christ. And I spent so much of my life, feeling like I wasted it, and going the wrong way. Not, I think I was like 35 years old, and I said, why not? It's, why not, go and do something? What have I been waiting for? And it kind of just, that led to one thing to another. And
nice. And with the improv team that I talked about earlier in the show, before we brought you on, we've had about 6 graduates of AMTC as a part of our comedy team.
Great.
And it's just the impact and the ripple effect of that organization is still being felt, even though it's been, I think it's now 5 years since they ended up closing down AMTC. I think it was 2017, maybe, or 2018.
Yeah, I graduated in the January 2017. I know I was probably one of the last years, which is too bad. I mean, I felt like it was, I don't know, it was such a great experience for me, and so much good came out of it. But like God's has a plan. But I'm thankful that I was able to be a part of it. Yeah.
Very cool. So just for those that may have joined us late on the live feed or are curious, tell us a little bit more about Honest to God, and we'll watch the trailer, and I'll play it at the end of the show as well.
Okay.
But just kind of give us like the elevator pitch of what Honest to God is about, and what people can expect when they watch it.
So Honest to God is a faith-based comedy film. Funny, but about death, actually. But it's more, so basically there's a family man, he's just got a regular life, kind of going through life, and just, nothing. And, he starts having these issues health issue. So he goes to the doctor, and the doctor tells me I have 3 weeks to live, and so obviously that sends him on a whirlwind, and all sorts of things, and questioning his faith. I guess you could say he was kind of a nominal Christian himself. So he starts, obviously thinking about God more, because, he's like, I'm going to die. And then it turns out he was misdiagnosed. And so the kind of like whole follow happens, because he starts like going on the right path, so to speak. And then he kind of just, once he finds out he's misdiagnosed, he kind of reverts back to like, oh, yeah, whatever, I'm all good. Me and God are good, and yada, yada. So, and then there's just the whole fallout with that, and the relationships, he has with his family and everybody. And yeah, it's just really funny. There's kind of the path it takes him down, and it has like, it's a really good story, like an arc of, what comes out of it. And, it's, I think it's really, anybody can relate to death, but it's, I thought it was just like funny, it's like, how do you make a comedy about death, but and it's something we all, have to face, and especially, you're tied to Christianity, but obviously, then there's hope, in Christ. And
right.
So, yeah, so that's basically in a nutshell, what happens with that. And, but it's a funny movie. It's a really good story. It's not just, just comedy, but it's a really good story. And, it's something, I believe it's something unique, that if you haven't seen it yet, I think you're going to really enjoy, and hope that it's going to encourage people who do believe, and then hopefully it can reach a wider audience of people who don't believe, and make them start, thinking about their mortality, asking questions, thinking about God, thinking about Christ, and I hope that's the whole purpose of God's purpose, to be fulfilled with the film, So
Yeah.
I hope it could touch and reach people for his, for his purpose, his glory. Yeah.
And if nothing else, it can. The hope is always that it shows that it's okay to laugh. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to be silly.
Yeah.
Because God gave it to us, and that's part of the devotion I mentioned earlier, talking about Proverbs 17:22. Is God's a good father. He wants to give us the tools to make it through the stress, and laughing is okay. Too many people, I think, in the church, to a lesser extent, but still struggle with the idea of laughing as it can be a gift or even holy. But I think that laughter can be very much holy. So So the movie is Honest to God. You can find it online at honesttogodmovie.com, on Facebook at HTG the movie. HTG as in Honest to God the movie. Find it on Facebook or online, and find where you can stream it. I believe it's on Amazon, PureFlix. I think it's actually on YouTube as well. You have to look for it there.
Yes, you can watch it free on YouTube. You can buy it digitally on Amazon if you'd like to do that. You could actually, I think the DVD's on sale now. I just checked, like $10.99. You can buy the DVD on Amazon, or I believe it's christianbook.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if you have like a Roku, I have a Roku, you can get their Encourage TV app as well. I think you can, I think there's no ads, and I saw it on Redbox, Roku channel, Fossum TV. I'm not sure. I got to check PureFlix again, but hopefully it'll be on there soon, because I think PureFlix is great. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, you find those updates at the Facebook page and also on honesttogodmovie.com. So, Enrique, I warned you before we went on that we have two final segments. The final question is always, for anybody that wants to use their gifts for God's glory, what's your wise counsel? But before we get to that question, this is 7 random questions that wouldn't have otherwise fit in the rest of our conversation. This is the interrogation. So other than that bumper, what makes you laugh?
Funny stuff. That bump, that stinger, that promo. Yeah, I mean, I think people who met me, it's like I laugh pretty easily a lot, it's funny, but I find myself, sometimes I'll go to a movie and then I burst out laughing and like nobody else is laughing. And I'm like that, but then like everybody's laughing. I'm like sitting there like this. Like, I don't know. But no, I love comedy. I love laughing. And I love what you say, your devotional thing. And it's so true, especially, with all the bad stuff in the world today. And just so much people go through. I think it is medicine. And especially when you can do it in a way or with content that's glorifying to God, and doesn't, because it's, the world is, it seems like there's the issue, obviously, with comedy now it's tied to things that are not, so pleasing, right, to God. So yeah, it's pretty easy to make me laugh most of the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Question number 2, with whom do you most identify in Scripture?
Oh boy, man. Hey. I maybe I'll say Peter, because I guess I could be pretty hard-headed sometimes. But I feel like I could be pretty zealous about things. And I've as my faith journey, I feel like there's some stuff that the Lord had to deal with me, because I was being a little bit, I don't want to say pharisaical, but something like a little bit like Peter, like, where the guy was like, wait, hold on, take it easy, this, and I got to, to remember, this is not helping, the overall for what to help this person, yada, yada, and to us to come together in a righteous way. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, question number 3, who is your favorite superhero and why?
Yeah, it's tough. I'd say, I guess I got to go with Batman, because it's pretty cool how Batman doesn't really have superpowers, but he can do all this, he does like all this amazing, cool stuff, Sure. Somebody says Batman's superpowers, he's really, really, really smart, but and he has like all the cool gadgets and all that stuff like that. So it's almost like it makes you feel like, well, you can relate, you can step into his shoes, because it's like, oh, he's just human, but he's doing all this cool thing, all these awesome things too,
Yeah. I would argue that Batman's superpower is Alfred.
Yes.
Right. All right. Question number 4. What memory would you most like to relive?
I have a daughter. She's about to turn 10, and I love her to death. But man, would I love to do over some of the younger years, because time goes by so fast, and it's like bittersweet, if you have kids of your own. And I was like, no, don't grow up so fast, and time just goes by faster and faster. But he's thankful, she's healthy, and and obviously, and God's with her. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Going on to number 5, how do you recharge?
I'd say spending quality time with family, sleep, I think it is very important to take a day, God created the Sabbath for a reason. I think we need to, that time is for us to recharge, and to stop the rat race that just, because it sometimes just never stops,
Right.
And it is supposed to be a blessing, not a burden, to spend, and then that's when you have time you can spend time with your families and have those memories, and just kind of try to enjoy God and his creation, your family. So yeah.
Very good. I like that. All right. Question number 6. Who do you most want to make proud?
Besides Dave Ebert.
Well, I shouldn't make the top 10.
Say it again.
I shouldn't even make the top 10 on this one.
Man, well, I want to make God proud. I want to make Jesus proud. I want to do the right thing, because that's what it's really all about. I mean, I hope it doesn't seem like too much of a generic response, but obviously it's true. you want to make your family proud. You always want your family to be proud of you too, you know, and especially your kids. And the best way to do that is to follow God's plan, you know, follow his guidance.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Final question of the interrogation. What's your dream role and who would you most like to work with?
Oh boy. Well, I love period pieces, like going back in time and stuff like that, and costumes and stuff like that. And it's probably a very typical answer, but I think it would be awesome to be a part of The Chosen. That's just a fantastic show. It's such a fantastic show. And it's like you're transported to a different time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love, you know, and yeah, honestly, I love working with everybody. I love working with everybody who really has a heart and passion for the Lord. And so I hope that we, you know, I can continue to do that and collaborate with, you know, and build relationships, because it is such a great experience when we can come together. Just anybody who really has a heart for the Lord, and especially with when you can create something that can go on, and you know, like faith-based media and stuff. So, yeah,
absolutely, good stuff. I would like to be on The Chosen as well, but I'm not qualified.
I don't know if I am so much either. I don't know. Mostly, yeah.
So the final question that we ask all of our guests is for anyone that wants to step up and use their gifts, their talents or passions or experiences for God's glory. What is your wise counsel?
Be willing to step out. You know, if God tells you to move somewhere, or he wants you to try something different, you know, be willing to step out. Like I said earlier, there's that Hebrew word Hineni, where it's like, basically, here I am, God, you know, send me. So, you know, and just have an openness for God to, you know, I don't want to say change your plans, maybe, and to take you places. God knows. He knows the path, you know, he knows the steps, and that ultimately that'll take you. That might be the door. This door might not be the direction you thought you wanted to go, but it might be the first door that opens up another door that eventually gets you to what you're most passionate about, your dream, you know, in the end.
Yeah,
I guess that'd be my wise counsel. Yeah.
What was that?
I guess that would be my wise counsel, but I still have a lot more wisdom to accomplish. I hope I can continue. I hope I can, you know, do that. You know, God willing.
Yeah. Well, Enrique, I thank you so much for coming on and sharing about your story, also about the movie Honest to God. You can find it again at honesttogodmovie.com. The links are in our show notes. So be sure to follow the page HTG the movie on Facebook. Stay connected and see when the next thing from Soul Productions is coming down. Is there anything in the works from Soul Productions that you can tease or give us a hint about?
I have heard that Robert is working on another script, but if I don't know if he in the capacity for it to come into fruition, it's going to be a God, definitely divine intervention again, and maybe because I mean this was a great experience, but this is his 10th film, and he was going to say it's his last film, and it's tough to do things on almost like on a wing and a shoestring budget, and you know, with limited resources, and it was quite a bit, you know, and I understand, you know, he put so much into it, you know, and but you know, God willing, you know, whatever God's plan is, you never know. Maybe the next Soul Productions will be coming out soon. So, or if not, hopefully at least his script can go on in one way or another to be made if it's not him who does it or so productions. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Enrique, again, thank you so much for being on. We are excited about the movie and excited to see people just have a moment to laugh and enjoy the film. So look for it on your favorite streaming platform, Honest to God Movie. And until then, we will see you next week here on the Gifts for Glory podcast. Have a great rest of your day, night, morning, whenever you're checking us out. I hope it's a great one. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure.